Hail, Internet! It's Paul. It's Matt. The Dork Lords. We're here today talking about Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Season 2, Episode 6, Lost in Translation. Though I did not see Bill Murray or Scarlett Johansson, I'll trust that the title is accurate.
Yes. I didn't notice anybody whispering in anybody's ear.
That should have been how it ended. Wouldn't that have been awesome if it had ended that way?
Yeah.
Like,
that's what should have happened. Spock should have leaned into Kirk
exactly
and whispered something in his ear. What?
Oh man, I would have given it so many points for that. All right, anyway. All right. We open with Uhura's officer's log entry, or communication officer's log entry. The Enterprise has been sent to the Bannon's Nebula to get a deuterium refinery outpost online. Pike has been temporarily assigned fleet commander status over the Enterprise, the refinery, and the Farragut, which is the ship upon which a certain James T. Kirk is currently serving. Uhura thinks she hears a communication signal, but apparently it's all in her head. That's right, it's an episode of Legion. Okay. We end with Uhura introducing Kirk to Spock, and the three of them sit down at a table for a drink. Camera pulls back. Spock whispers in Kirk's ear. No, okay. And roll credits. So, Paul.
Yes.
What'd you think of episode 6?
I enjoyed it.
Okay.
7 out of 10, I will give it. Even though I question whether or not the story really needed James Kirk, still, I think he fit in rather well. This was the Kirk of this actual era, and not some alternate Kirk.
Great point. And in fact, I feel like some of the best moments in it were Kirk based. I liked Kirk's conversation with his brother Sam.
You did?
I did. I thought their relationship. They're both trying to live up to their dad's expectations, and Sam feels that he's not doing as well because his brother is, and Sam has his dad's name. And so, George, and so, he feels like he should, as the older brother, he should be doing what Kirk's doing now. And so, anyway, I kind of like that. I like
sure, but is James being malicious in how he's doing it?
No, he's not. Although I feel like James is dismissive, right? A little bit of
okay.
Sam's occupation. Like, oh, yeah, okay, you're one of those nerd scientists. Got it. All right.
Okay.
Good for you. Look at the things you're doing. You're like, okay. But I like that. I also liked the conversation with that Kirk has with Lon, considering what we saw in the previous episodes, where Lon is now meeting up with it's the first meeting, but in her mind it's not. And I thought that was a really well played out scene as well. And there's some other cool moments that are I think Kirk based. But I agree with you.
I would also too highlight the conversation he has with Uhura, where he says, that's what being in Starfleet is about, fear. That's why we're here. It's. I think he actually understood what he needed to say to get her to commit to really dealing with something that she was putting off for a long time.
And it does encourage her in that way, which is great. I do feel like, though, maybe to your point, that the episode feels a little bit unfocused. Like, I think it was trying to tell too many, let's say, A-plot storylines. So it felt a little rushed in that way. So, like, one plot line, as we just talked about, Kirk meets Pike, Spock, Uhura, his brother, the ship, all of which are going to inform the original series. So that's kind of its own big arc, basically. Another plot line, Uhura demonstrates her ability to communicate with alien life forms. She's able to finally decipher the visions that she's been having in a time to save the day. Kind of her Shaka when the walls fell moment. But I think there's also a season 1 episode that features her ability to understand, and interpret alien language. So obviously that's That's an Uhura quality. One of the things that makes her really special for the Enterprise. But that's another plot line. A third plot line, I think, dealt with Uhura.
Yeah, but she integrated this discovery with more of her past, so that's the benefit of this storyline.
Yeah. I mean, a third plot line deals with Uhura and number 1 dealing with Hemmer's death at the end of last season, and how that's making him treat, I forgot her name, Carol Kane poorly. Since she's a new engineer, and basically seeing Carol Kane reminds them of Hemmer, and a fourth plot line I think deals with an ecological message. We know when we extract resources from the environment, we might be harming the local flora and fauna intentionally or unintentionally. A fifth plot line I think deals with people in power listening to and yes-anding those without power. Pike and Kirk basically yes-and the issues presented by Uhura instead of dismissing her judgment, which I think was another. We have that throughout the episode. It's not just at the end. I have a little. I'll talk about that a little bit later. But just to say that not only at the end, there's a moment there where Kirk, in that conversation he has with Uhura, where he's like, "Yeah, listening. That's what I do, and that's an important part of what's happening right now." And then you had this horror template put on top of it. I just think it was trying to do a lot, and maybe a little too much for a single episode. But
what would you cut out or decreased?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think the Kirk part of it might have been better served in a different episode. Like, this focus on Uhura, let that be your main driver, and then you can also have her dealing with Hemmer's death, because she's like, hey, there's no one here to help me in this moment. I have to do it myself, something like that. But yeah, anyway, just to say, perhaps it wasn't like, oh, it's terrible. It's just like, maybe you were trying to cram too much information into one episode.
Now, do you think it would have benefited perhaps from more time?
Oh, that's true. Yes, obviously. If you had enough time, you could tell this story. If you did like a two-parter or something, you're saying? So
you're saying if it had like an extra 15 or 20 minutes, or 10 minutes, or 10 to 15 minutes, maybe you would have felt that it would devote it to all the different strands.
I think that's possible. Yeah,
it desered.
I think that's true. I mean, I talked about those horror elements.
My only question is, you can treat him as a character. I mean, James Kirk.
Okay.
It's just, in a way, it just makes you wonder about the other characters. Like, Sam is really becoming a very defined. It's like he's his own red shirt. He's there.
Yeah, because we know
to play jokes and stuff. We're not really getting a sense too much. We got a little bit of a sense now of his jealousy of his brother.
Yeah.
But I kind of wonder if they couldn't have made James the one doing this,
Yeah.
But it's like deliberately they're sort of like, he's just there to,
Well, I do like that they gave him a reason.
Sometimes
they gave him like, oh, his expertise is actually helpful. Let's go talk to Sam.
Yes,
like, hey, we gave him something to do.
Yeah, right. Well,
but we also.
Actually,
go ahead.
I think that, even though I'm not exactly sure why they used James Kirk, I don't think it took away from the episode.
Okay. Yeah. And he's the more I see him, the more I'm liking his portrayal of Kirk too. I think he's doing a great job.
Yeah. And especially after last week's performance, to me, this is another Pike light episode.
It is.
And I don't think it hurts the episode at all.
I hear that.
I'm going to come strongly like, this is how the show should be.
Yeah.
You should keep having characters and bring them up. And if they don't do a good job of bringing it up, the answer is not they should have brought more Pike in. The answer is just do those episodes better.
Yeah. I hear that. Yeah, and it is interesting, like, the relationship between Lon and Kirk is intriguing, but it does, it is running that canonical risk where you're like, wait, when he hears Khan Noonien Singh's name.
Yeah, it's one of the things I thought about is the fact that what people want from the show is that it don't interfere with the events. It doesn't interfere with canon.
Yeah.
And one of the things that people apparently are fine with is actually interferes with canon, which is saying, okay, those events that were supposed to happen in the 80s and 90s didn't happen.
Are
in the
now
80s
happening
and
in
90s, they
the
happened later.
2020s or whatever.
So people are fine with that. Apparently, I haven't really heard too much disagreement with that, or people are accepting of that. And so, it'd be interesting if, the time people going to change things, perhaps they changed it too, where now Spock and Chapel now had a relationship before. Maybe that's different. I mean, for me personally, I would be fine if they just were saying this is just a slightly different timeline, not the Kelvin universe difference.
Yeah.
Just a slightly different one that is gonna, I would have no problem with that, but I know other people would. And it's like, for me, there's room for, it's a multiverse. Come on.
I've come to that understanding as well. I think I was maybe more on the don't screw with canon side of things, maybe at the beginning of this thing. But I think, this plot line with Lon, I'm kind of interested to see where it goes. The plot line between Kirk and Chapel, I'm interested to see where that goes. And frankly, I'm still on board with the Pike avoids the spade idea. So I'm good. I'm good with it. I'm good with it.
I don't know,
right,
but to
anyway.
me, I'm kind of
yeah.
hoping that they have the balls to have that happen and do a show with James Kirk and Uhura, and now this is the show. We're doing the same episodes as except with better writing and better effects. And because some things in the past have been slightly different, now let's have these episodes that we've seen be slightly different. I would have no problem with that, but it probably won't happen.
It probably won't happen. But no, I hear you. I'd be up for that as well. I think let's see how they pull it off. Yeah. But yeah, we mentioned the horror elements. There are some genuine kind of zombie hammer.
Yes.
I mean, thank goodness
my
wife Jackie was not watching this episode. It's her trigger. Zombies just totally mess with her mind, and so woo, that would have been terrible. The brutal stabbing victim just laying in the hallway.
Oh yeah,
that was a pretty kind of visceral scene. And then that refinery tech, I think his name is Ramon.
Yeah,
his death scene
that was
space.
really
that's all.
that's probably more than anything I feel like we've seen in Star Trek ever.
So, for me, I guess I had maybe 2 issues with this episode, and I think they're both concerning the ending.
Okay.
Not the handshake. I'm good with yay, Spock and Kirk together. Fun bit of nostalgia. I'm talking about the blowing up of the refinery.
Okay.
So I feel like, first of all, there was a perfectly good resolution at hand. Uhura says, "Hey, the refinery's torturing the aliens. We need to shut it down." But the show wanted to have an explosion.
Okay.
So, seemingly out of nowhere, we get this, we can't shut it down. I'm like, where did that come from? What, ever? You mean literally this thing? You've got a bunch of very competent engineers over there. They can't come up with a single way to power down the refinery without blowing it to smithereens. You're like, give us 15 minutes. Okay. And instead, no, evacuate. We're going to blow it up. Blow it to hell.
I mean, to me, that's anticlimactic. Oh, no, this thing is terrible. Okay, switch. Boop.
Yeah, I mean, they wanted an explosion.
So, to me, that demonstrated the fact that, okay, we're so committed to this idea that we wouldn't hurt anybody, that we're willing to destroy something that clearly has some value to us, and all the effort and work we put into this. So let's do that.
So the second thing involves the shoot the refinery scene. Again, it comes back to one of the plot lines I mentioned. It's the yes-anding part, which it's an important message to say people in power should listen to the people around them, not dismiss their point of view. Yes. But if there was ever a moment when you might not yes-and someone's judgment, it's probably that moment. By the time, so this is the end of the episode. So by that time, Uhura, by the time she says we need to destroy the refinery, she's had this series of audio and visual hallucinations that are so real. She attacked Kirk thinking she was attacking herself. She's been diagnosed medically. Mbenga saw a thing, and he's like, you have brain impairment.
Yes.
And the impairment that is shared by this techie, Ramon, who has also been diagnosed, who stabbed Mbenga and then brutally murdered an Enterprise crew member. We know she's within hours of reaching Ramon's level of mental impairment because she like looks at the logs like, oh my god, I have a day, and that was hours anyway. So she's currently seeing a hallucination of Zombie Hemmer standing right next to Pike, and so I just feel like trusting her to say like, he says, are you certain? I'm certain.
And he looks over at Kirk, and Kirk's like, yeah, do it.
Yeah, I'm saying Kirk and Pike both and her. I'm just saying, in that moment, I think that only works because the script says it works. I don't think it's the right move, frankly, to blow up a refinery on the word of someone suffering massive mental trauma and violent hallucinations. I mean, like, you mentioned like going to your quarters and maybe we'll do that. Let's do that one. Let's see how this works. I don't know. I'm like, let's get you well. But you being certain when you have literal mental trauma right now, I'm like, that's all. I'm like, I felt like they were way too like, let's do it. Let's blow it up. That's fine. I don't know. Just do it. Like, wow. Okay. That's all. I mean, as I say, there were lots of stuff to like about it, and I appreciated the focus on Uhura and her problem-solving skills, learning about, seeing her trauma with her parents' death and how Kirk helps her deal with that. That's all good stuff, and that you can see that relationship forging so that later when Kirk takes over command of the Enterprise, that they're going to have this, so anyway, but yes, I go with maybe slightly lower than you. You said a 7. I'd go like 6.5, maybe 6.5, something like that. Maybe up to 7. I'll be
because actually 7. You got 8, 9, and 10 still out there. You still out there, and you do
have those.
And I think there are times when I've done halves. So really, that gives you several gradations before perfect.
Yep. All right, so yes, we're in agreement.
Yeah, but
it's a 7.
By your standards, I want to give it a higher rating.
It's a Blake 7 is what it is. Okay. All right. Any other thoughts, concern?
I really like the bit where she took all the different hallucinations that she had. She actually recounted it in order to sort of translate exactly the messages they were trying to give her. So I really like that.
Right. So that part of her communication skill, right? That's her her skill set.
Yeah.
This is Uhura. She can communicate. Yeah,
I really like that.
I agree. I think that was
effective. There were a number of good things.
It didn't just make all of the hallucinations meaningless, in other words.
Yeah.
In a touching tribute, the nebula referenced in the show, Bannon's Nebula, is named after Brian Bannon, the husband of Melissa Navia, the actress who plays Ortegas. Bannon tragically passed away from leukemia in 2021, and so this was a fitting way to honor his memory. Awesome. All right. So we'll be back talking about Strange New Worlds. We've also got, I think at this point, we'll have the season finale of Secret Invasion as well. So come on back for those things, and we'll talk to everybody next time.
Bye.
Bye.